I have a hard time with,
Yeah.
Then she crybaby easily there.
Yeah.
you know who I'm struggling, what I always struggle with basketball is the college style.
I like college.
Because all it is huck up bad threes, ill-advised threes.
Well, there is that.
NBA is a three-point
NBA's
team.
And now the NBA is starting to trend that way, and it's driving me nuts too.
Mine was like all the way up.
Andrea, was it way high for you?
Yes.
Every time.
It's
Lauren
like,
loved
"Oh, you're
that.
up there."
He's got to sit up
He
top.
likes to be high.
He says he sits next to two taller guys, so it's
So he
kind of.
needs it. I guess
So
I
he
do
raises
too.
his head up. But give him grief. I give him grief every time I see
I
him
will
about
next
it.
time.
It's like let's say it's a multi-acre property. Here's if they do big windows up the second.
On a multi-acre property, hard surfacing, the problem, they
would set it back far. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's where it gets tricky. I almost feel like come in and show us what you want to do.
Yeah. Is that your envelope with $5,000 in it? From the developer? Yes. The bribes that I hear about on Facebook? Yeah, that's the cover for it.
That's past two.
Or maybe
That's what I hear about on Facebook, so
it's almost like
I'm still waiting for mine.
properties.
You got to be here at least 8 years.
No, it's, if it's different.
I'm almost there.
I got
well, the
5
house
more.
is closer. That's where it gets complicated.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started, and Clint is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we have a full quorum. And are there any conflicts of interest today?
Nope.
Perfect, okay. Approval of minutes from the December 17th, 2025 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes?
Second. So we have a motion by Andy, a second by Heather, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a couple items on for a public hearing, so I will read that policy. The purpose of the public comment policy is to allow citizens to address items on the agenda. Citizens requesting to address the commission will be asked to complete a written comment form found on the back of the room and presented to the deputy city recorder. In general, the chair will allow an individual 3 minutes to address the commission. A spokesperson recognized as representing a group in attendance may be allowed up to 5 minutes. So our first item, 4.1, review and consider a recommendation to amend Harriman City's official zoning map from A143 to A110.
Okay, good evening. This request is from Roger Duke for a rezone to subdivide his property. Property is 7411 West up on High Country Road. It's highlighted here in the image. As you can see along that street, along High Country Road, several of the lots have already been subdivided to include a deep lot, or a flag lot as we call them. Mr. Duke is requesting to do a similar thing. Current zone right now is A143, and the applicant is requesting that it be rezoned to an A110 zone. That will create 2 lots of 1/3 acre and about 3/4 of an acre. 2/3 and 1/3 acre, that's better. So this is the current general plan map. It is currently shown as neighborhood residential 1. So the request to rezone to the A110 zone does comply with that, that general plan land use condition. And as part of the requested rezone, we would just recommend that that the applicant only get 2 units per acre, which will satisfy what he's trying to accomplish, and also keep his development kind of in line with in character with everything else that's happening on that street. And this is the zone that's being requested, is the A110. This is kind of a conceptual look at what the subdivision might look like when it comes in for approval. This will come back to the commission for approval, of course. And it does comply with, again, with the general plan, future land use map. And then our recommendation, again, is that it be approved with that zoning condition that 2 units per acre be allowed. Any questions for me? The applicant is also here. Would you like to? Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do the public hearing.
Do you want to hear, yeah, I was going to say, you want to hear from the
That
applicant first?
Okay, if the applicant has anything they want to add.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Come forward and state your name if you have any comments.
My name is Roger Duke.
Thank you. Okay, and then seeing no other public comments, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Andy, second by Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Nope, seems pretty straightforward.
Okay.
With the condition to keep it at 2 lots for that area, it seems to make sense.
Like I say, the condition to 2 lots is key.
Yep,
Yeah.
Okay,
which
and-
is in the staff recommendation. here,
Yeah,
So,
okay. If there's no discussion, a motion?
Well, yeah, a little bit of discussion.
Sure.
So the A110, that's to create a smaller upfront lot to fit the
Yes.
improvements that are already in the back?
correct.
Yeah, because it can't have 2 half acres.
Yep. Because of the placement of the current home.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, to me, makes sense to make that adjustment, but keep it at 2 lots.
I maybe have one question for the applicant, if you could come forward. Does the property to the west of you have animals?
No, they have no animals, no.
Okay, thank you.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Go for
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Okay, I make a motion to recommend approval to the city council for item 4.1 to rezone to A110, creating 2 lots.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Brody, or motion by Daryl, a second by
Scott, do you
Brody.
want with staff's recommendations?
That was the staff's recommendation, the 2 lot.
2, I didn't see any more.
Oh,
You need to say it with.
Oh,
the
you need
staff
to say it?
recommendation.
with staff's recommendation.
Okay. In addition, I recommend following the staff's recommendations.
There you go.
I'll second that again.
Thank you. Brody?
Yeah.
Jackson?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
And Andy?
Yes.
All right, so that passes unanimously. All right, item 4.2, review and consider a recommendation to amend Chapter 10-21 fencing and other chapters entitled 10 Land Development Code.
Good evening. And as you stated previously, this is also a public hearing item, a series of minor amendments to our fence regulations in the city. This is kind of just orienting you to the code structure. So Title 10, of course, is our zoning ordinance. Within that title, there's one specific chapter that focuses on fencing, Chapter 1021. And as you can see in your packet, that was the main section of the ordinance amendment. I included that whole chapter. But then we have fencing references throughout the zoning ordinance, and they're typically specific to certain zone types: agricultural, residential, commercial, manufacturing. Now, in analyzing all of these references, we initially had wondered about, could we possibly just move every standard back into Chapter 1021? But we discussed how do our clients, our applicants, and typically we're working with developers, what do they typically like to see when they're looking at our zoning ordinances? And it was advised to us that they do like to see zoning-specific standards in the zone regulation. So what we found is that in these other references outside of Chapter 1021, that's typically what we have. We have something that's unique to that particular zone. And then we also will have references that just say basically, hey, when you're submitting a site plan, you have to include fencing or screening as per Chapter 1021. So it seems like the structure of our ordinance is actually okay. So we're not proposing to modify that structure, but we did want to look at any opportunities to clean up language. Initially, I thought maybe there might be some redundancy. It didn't seem like that was really an issue. It was just more like clarification and then making a few modest changes to some of the standards. There's also some regulations or adopted by the city council, certain fencing related standards in the engineering standards. And in fact, that is one of the references that you've seen in the materials before you. None of the engineering standards are being proposed relative to fencing. None of those are being amended by this proposal tonight. So these are kind of a highlight of the features. Again, clarifies the language. We are maintaining current height and location standards. None of that is changing. You may recall that we do allow, so 6-foot fences like in rear yards, that's permitted. They can also go above that to 8 feet, but it does require some additional building permit review for wind loading. We are proposing some modifications to materials, including some wood fencing materials. We have had some of our master development agreements and PUDs successfully use wood materials. The language that I inserted into the ordinance is making sure that it's a durable, dense wood, that the wood that's being used is intended to be used, exposed to the elements, so it is designed to be fencing. Also looked to clarify vinyl coated chain link fences are permitted for the recreational land uses, and this is where we potentially have taller fences to control like balls and other types of objects. Sometimes we see people want to, for like batting cages or whatever. So we do have a height exception that allows for that. We want to specify that that's a vinyl coated chain link fence. We also, we typically require solid walls for outdoor screening, but in this chapter 23, 1023.13, it's called landscaping and screening. It did allow as an alternative chain link with vinyl slats in these zones, RM, C1, C2, as you can see that list. So in the draft that's before you, I propose that we remove that, but that can be a little bit problematic for some of our larger like manufacturing users. If they want to have screening, we're saying very clearly that it has to be a solid, wall. It can't be the chain link with slats. Most of our development partners haven't been doing that, but I've wondered if that might be a concern to require that for all of these different zones, like our manufacturing zone. But that is something maybe for discussion. So again, we are recommending approval. I also mentioned, I think I failed to clarify, I was relying on some other standards within the city when we do city projects, but I think we should clarify further in Chapter 1021 that when we're dealing with a public utility and there is a need for security, oftentimes that solution is a chain link fence with security detail. Razor wire or some other kind of feature that discourages, that is climbable. So we just wanted to clarify that we want to be able to do that when it meets those administrative review standards. So we're still looking to mitigate any impacts on adjacent properties. And it may not always be the appropriate solution, but we wanted to have that flexibility for security of public utilities. And then if you have anything else, of course, you're always welcome to identify any further modifications or amendments to the proposal. Of course, as the public hearing, your role is to hear the public on this. You may close the hearing following this discussion, or you can continue it if you want to continue the item and bring it back for another night. You have both options that are before you. Any questions for me at this time? Okay.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, so I guess our first item is, do we hold the public hearing and then continue it if we decide to continue this item?
Correct.
Yeah. I just want to know what does the commission want to do? Are we leaning towards continuing everything?
I'm
or-
not leaning towards continuing
I would just
personally.
move
but,
for-
yeah,
approve
I don't have any concerns with what's being proposed.
Questions on wood that I want to.
Okay. So should we do the public hearing and then close it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess her question is, if we do the public hearing, but then we close the public hearing, can we choose to continue the public hearing after the fact if we vote to continue the item?
Oh,
No,
No, okay.
no, but I don't know if we need any additional,
Michael's like, no.
but I don't know if we'd need any additional public input personally.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, hopefully they've got the notice. Those that have concerns are here tonight, and we'll hear from them.
If we continue it.
But we can continue it with the closed public, after closing public hearing as well.
I would have to double check Robert's rules, but it's easy enough to re-advertise. Because this is where we post it in 3 places, and then we also mail a postcard to, there's about 20 different entities that are registered with the city on our public hearing notice list. So it's easy enough to do.
I guess my thought is, we've noticed it, the public has an opportunity. I don't know if this is, I guess we can decide upon what comments we may hear tonight, but personally, I think we could close the hearing even if we continued the item. That's my opinion.
Okay, so I will go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. Okay, and seeing none, can we get a motion to close that?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Andy, a second by Heather, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay, and then discussion. So I think my heartburn is with the wood fencing.
Allowing it.
Yeah.
Being able to, yeah, we've always had that in our,
so what's, I guess, what is your concern with the wood fencing
The
versus the
appearance,
plastic?
I mean, when I look at examples online, it's got like the dog ear, that is, I don't know. There's some wood composite that could look nice, but, I mean, then do we have to regulate the material that they use for the wood? I don't know. I think Jackson had mentioned something about,
I think you bring up a great point.
Yeah.
Is you can get the look of wood with
Yeah.
composite. But with, sorry, but with wood, it's the maintenance that I have. It just doesn't
But
get
that's
maintained.
a
Even-
little true of vinyl also. It weathers. And how many panels of broken vinyl fences have we seen?
Yeah, they get brittle and they break.
They get brittle, baseballs go through them, kids go through them.
Kids do go through them. Now, one,
there is a requirement to maintain as well, which would be the case for
Right.
wood as well, right? That they need to make sure
To
that it's
Daryl's
being
point,
maintained.
like, my kids play baseball and I hate having a vinyl fence in my backyard because they put holes in it. So I'd rather have wood. And yeah, I don't know. It goes to maintenance. Like, there's certain types of wood, like redwood is,
Yeah, they're both restrictive up where I live. What do we do with lots that back against
hillside.
hillside? I mean, there's some big lots that would cost tens of thousands or more to fence those lots.
Well, again, this
with
doesn't
vinyl versus wood.
require that you install the fence, right? It's just saying that you could,
Allows the option.
yeah. yeah.
So, but there are requirements for what type of wood could be
Can't use
used for the
plywood?
wood.
Can't throw up a bunch of plywood for a fence?
Right.
No,
yeah,
I-
it's-
because-
I know, I'm kidding.
Material is
Facetious, but it
designed.
specifically says that.
Well, that's what
right.
I'm saying, is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Yeah.
within the code, it says you can only use
Intended
wood that's intended for
fencing.
fencing.
Now, let me,
On the recreational sites, you allow post and wire. What does that look like in your mind?
So this is what you might typically see like on public lands. You know, it's just kind of a demarcation, you know, simple wood posts and a wire. They do
So, sorry, wood posts, not metal T-posts.
Right.
Is what you're saying. You're
Right.
showing wood.
That's what
it's
is
specifically
recommended.
wood post. Okay.
And
Yep.
non-barbed wire is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's like cattle fencing, basically.
Barbed,
The top,
I know what you mean.
the top line is smooth because they don't want animals to be injured if they are going over that fence line. So that is a standard.
But the lower ones can
Yeah.
be barbed.
Right.
So that would be like a park setting, a recreational property?
This is in that forest recreation, like the natural, the native topography, right?
Sides, that makes sense.
Instead of
Yeah.
a great Harriman wall.
Yes.
You could have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you have behind
now
yours?
let me, now, Andrea, let me throw out an idea here and get your thoughts on it. What if we allowed wood as an accessory? Let's say 20% of the fence could be wood. So you
See,
get
in
that
some of these
decorative
that I'm
element.
looking at, like even the modern composite that looks like wood with the metal, I think that would be more along the lines of what we would, I'm just worried about like these, the cedar planks,
Right,
the
and
dog,
if we were only
the dog
20%,
ear.
we wouldn't get those. We might get something like a stone wall with a wooden top rail or some other things that would be more decorative. And so if you had a 20% wood allowed, then you could get some more options that might be interesting.
I brought this to you because over the years, I have had a number of residents who will ask what our requirements are when I say we don't allow wood. It's unusual, and it's often, they're disappointed, of course, and they're trying to get
Probably
that kind of
cheaper,
approval.
but I think the appearances. So would we currently allow a fence that looks like wood but is actually a composite?
Yes, we do, not a wood composite, but a synthetic composite. And that's why I was kind of clarifying that language in the ordinance, that we're talking about a synthetic or a wood composite, just to be clear.
I don't know, for me, I don't mind 100% wood. I don't know, I feel it's really restrictive not allowing a wood fence, and I don't know, I don't really like making ordinances around people not taking care of their things because we don't want to do code enforcement.
So maybe a question I have is the removal of this and allowing the fence, is that coming from city council? Because this is a recommendation, again, going to city council. This is just something that staff's looking at due to public requests that have been
Yeah,
coming in. And
there were some other items relative to some of the city projects that we've been working on, relative to like, type of fencing and fence maintenance. And so we were just thinking, is there something we can do to kind of clarify some of our standards, make it,
yeah. So again, I guess for us tonight, it's a recommendation to city council. They may change it as well, but I think this is still good. Hopefully they do listen to us. I think they do and want to make sure. I was just curious if city council was requesting this
On
change
the
or something
wood,
like that. Yeah, on the wood
the
side.
wood was just a response to
Okay.
resident feedback over the years.
Gotcha.
I was going to say, in general, I really like the idea of bringing all the fencing to one spot. I think that just clarifies it and makes it easier to use and administer. So I think in general, that's good. I think my only concern is allowing too much wood. That's why I throw out the idea of, if we allow a percentage.
I guess I'll complicate it a little bit by saying, does anybody have an opinion on the wood based on zoning? Because like there might be some zoning, like maybe not, obviously in the certain residential zones because of what you're saying, like it starts to look bad. But then if you're in some of these agricultural zones that are out in high country that don't have, like, do you still have a problem with the wood fence in those areas? Is that where a lot of our requests are coming from, or are they coming from more of the neighborhoods?
I would say it's just residential development.
residential.
We did make a change several years ago to allow some wood to be used when you're creating an enclosure for animals. So that's already in the ordinance for agricultural purposes. But,
I mean, Daybreak has wood fences all over the place,
yeah. Yeah.
and it's a maintenance thing, in my opinion. I like a wood fence better than white vinyl. I think it looks cheap.
I wonder
personally.
if it's a certain type of wood, though. Like, do you think that it's just any,
Like
like
a cedar or
Is
like
that-
redwood, like those are
okay.
better.
Again,
Yeah.
excuse me, the ordinance does say specifically for fencing, so
Yeah.
it just can't be any type of wood.
Yeah,
Okay.
Right.
like pine
So
or
it-
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of pine planks, that's not
Well, and I just
intended.
worry people would get just random scraps of,
Yeah,
It
correct.
specifies you can't
Good.
do that.
Yeah.
okay.
Well, just like we don't allow sheet metal, like it has to be materials for fencing.
Yeah.
Correct.
I like the wood fencing. I think it gives people more options, and especially where we've had complaints from the public about the Great Wall of Harriman. I think something like this and allowing this will help. But again, hopefully people are taking care of their property.
And I think that's where I'm at as
Just
well.
drive through
I'm okay with it, just if we can enforce
What is
it,
it, RT?
right? Enforce the code, enforce the requirement for the maintenance so that it looks good. You know, I know there's a lot of burden on the city to do that, so
Or drive up to the.
that really would be my concern is, I'm okay with it, because wood fences do look nice as long as they're maintained.
It's all
So-
falling down.
That's my opinion.
That's code enforcement.
Right. It does.
Code enforcement,
Yeah,
that's the key.
yeah.
I had a question, Michael, for also in the vinyl fencing material of being beige, white, or neutral color. Do you get requests for other colors?
Pink.
With the growing popularity of like the synthetic materials, I would say yes. We have seen people who've wanted to do more like the darker grays.
Is that not considered a neutral, a darker gray?
It's not.
I guess I'm kind
you
of pointing
could-
out the vagueness of that a little
I think
bit.
at one time we had proposed like more earth tones, and of course you could say, well, you know, some rocks are dark, and so I think that could be
Earth tones is good.
a change if you wanted to make that.
Yeah, I guess, I think
Instead of
neutral
neutral.
color can be kind of defined loosely.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder how okay we are with that being loosely defined. I mean, I'm of the opinion, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have those options,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know what the rest of the,
I think because we don't have the wood, that means you're doing vinyl. It seems like most people have been doing, of course, the whites and the beiges. It's occasionally when somebody wants to do like a Trex fence or something like that, that we see maybe a darker material. So perhaps an earth tone might be a better descriptor than neutral or,
I'm okay with neutral. My question is what if they put up a wood fence and paint it purple? Is that allowed, the way it's written? You know,
it would be,
right?
would be.
Would.
Pun
Oh,
intended.
boy. Anyhow, they need to maintain the natural
I mean,
look,
I guess,
think, of
I
the
guess
wood
I
as well.
actually don't, I don't know why we, especially if the wood is opened up, I don't know why we would want to limit the color options, because, yeah, I mean, you get a dark gray, a nice dark gray look, I don't think that would be problematic. I could see it not matching your neighbor, but if the entire purpose is to always match your neighbor, then that leads to a very boring environment.
Well, and I would get a little concerned with over-regulating
That
private
too.
property too. So I'm good with it just saying neutral colors.
Yeah.
Let it stand like that.
And as long as that applies to all fencing materials, right?
Do we
Yeah,
regu-
not that they can't paint a wood fence a non-neutral color.
Do we regulate color of houses?
Neutral
No.
colors.
No?
not unless it's in the, like in an MDA.
Yeah.
So,
Somebody could
We're-
paint their
we're-
house purple.
that's right.
How are we
So
regulating it?
if
Yeah.
someone paints
Well-
their house purple, but they want a gray wood fence. Not saying that that works, but
Might for them.
we're more concerned about the fence color than we are the house color.
That's a fair point.
Should we be concerned about the fence?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's shared. You can't have a double fence, so there's a little bit of that perspective.
But you paint your side one
Yeah.
color and the neighbor
True.
paints it the other.
Yeah.
Double fences aren't allowed,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
That's one of
They're
the-
not, but if it's, again, a wood fence, you can paint one side.
But like you
one
said,
color.
yeah, one can be purple, the other can be.
That's true.
Gray,
You and your
whatever.
neighbor, they go
Your neighbor can do
halvesies,
what you
and one paints it
Yeah.
one color, one paints it the other.
They should paint vinyl.
Oh, and what if they decide to paint a mural on it? I mean, it could look really pretty. Like, why do we want to regulate that? I don't know.
No, I agree with that.
I guess, my opinion, yeah, I'm good with this. I'm okay to
I'm
move
good
forward
with how
with
it
the way it is to city council. But
Same here.
That's my opinion.
All right.
What do you think about wood as a 20% accessory instead of all wood?
I'm okay with it about all wood. Again, it gets back to enforcement. You know, a nice wood fence, I'm fine with it being 100% wood, but it has to be maintained. That's my only concern. But it's in there,
Sandy's
and it's a
maintained.
requirement. I'm sorry?
Sandy's maintained.
I understand. Any fence needs to be maintained, because you're right, you get some vinyl fences that have been
Beat up, yeah.
beat up pretty good.
Cross.
Yeah. Yeah, so we just need to maintain it.
Looks like motocross was run around the entire fence line. It's like splattered with
Small rock holes
with small rock holes and.
So I'm okay to make a motion.
Would we want to specify what Jackson said, where you could have a portion of fencing as different, like you could have a wood and a metal fence, just to let people know that that is an option in there, or is that already?
It does increase so fence permits, unless there's an engineering requirement or a public safety requirement, we usually don't see those, right?
Okay.
They're just able to put them up. Some, we get inquiries, obviously, people asking, what are the requirements? What can I do?
Yeah. So as long as it
But that
doesn't say it's
just,
prohibited.
saying 20%.
Okay.
I mean, yes, you could put
They
it in
could.
there, but
Okay.
Well, they could do that anyway.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
asking, is if they knew
You've
they
covered
could do that.
vinyl and you've covered wood, wire. Is there any caveats for block?
Or or precast.
We do obviously allow precast. Yeah. We have a standard
Precast
for
wouldn't be
that.
cement block, would it?
Yeah.
No,
Like
cement
CMU.
block as well.
Yeah.
Is that allowed? Or stone, right? If you want to build a stone fence, stone and masonry.
How have we, Clint, how have we interpreted block? I don't know that we've had block wall requests. Straight black wall. Yeah, finish it with some other surface.
It is, 1021-4A, it is a permitted fencing material. Shall be allowed in all zones except as otherwise provided. And it says right here, decorative, precast, concrete, or integrally colored and textured block, brick, stone, or other masonry wall materials.
Colored or textured.
Colored and
Colored or
textured
textured,
block,
yeah.
yeah. So it's not a
That's
smooth
different than
face.
Smooth, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, brick.
that's allowed, brick,
That's what it says in there.
says brick.
It's already in there.
Brick, stone.
Yeah, no, I may have said it too fast, but specifically it says brick. Yep, brick, stone, or other masonry wall materials, so it's covered.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve recommendation City Council to approve item 4.2 with staff's 2 additional recommendations.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Andy, a second by Brody. Andy?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Jackson?
No.
And Brody?
Yes.
Okay, so that, one opposed. Okay. Item 4.3, review and consider a recommendation to amend Title 10 Land Development Code to permit detached accessory dwelling units.
Okay, this is an item that we have talked about a number of times, trying to feel our way through. As we've discussed in some work meetings, we've been hearing that this particular legislative session with the state, we're anticipating seeing a proposal and possibly an adoption discussing detached ADUs. We currently allow internal ADUs, but not detached. A lot of communities have been adopting a detached ordinance, so it's not unusual. But this would be the first for Harriman if this were adopted. One thing of note, this is an objective within our moderate income housing plan, is to study the appropriateness of detached ADUs in the city. And so by doing this, we are fulfilling that element of our obligation with the state. This is a quick summary of those amendment features, looking at allowing ADUs citywide. Now, that's general, just meaning wherever those conditions, the requirements of the draft are met, then you could potentially have a detached ADU. But we do require it to be a single-family home. And as you know, we don't allow residential uses like in commercial zones or manufacturing zones. So we're always talking about our zone types that are intended and regularly used for residential occupancy. A minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. Again, this is a number that we were hearing from the state that was the number that they would likely be using in a proposed code with the state. Maximum size is 1,000 square feet or 50% of the size of the dwelling, and that's occupiable space. Maximum height in the current draft is 20 feet, and that's measured to the ridge line or the top of the roof structure. All of these things, of course, are subject to further amendment and recommendation to the City Council. There's language in here that is encouraging that the design match the single-family home. As you know, we are very limited as to regulating the design of single-family homes outside of our development agreements. But we still can regulate the design of accessory structures or detached ADUs, at least currently. There is an owner occupancy requirement. Again, this is another typical requirement that other cities have used to make these detached ADUs be acceptable and function well within their communities. We do have a clause in there for a temporary absence. That clause is also one that's been used in other cities for like military health reasons, or if somebody is engaged in some type of religious service and they need to leave. It does require that there would be some type of on-site property management, though, to maintain that property in their absence. And then again, no short-term rental. We currently don't allow short-term rentals in pretty much anywhere within the city. And that may be, subject to further discussion, whether or not that ordinance would change, but currently we're saying that no short-term rental, which is anything less than 30 days. Anything more than 30 days is not considered to be a short-term rental of anything in the city. I just threw this in here, not really to go through, but if you wanted to look at anything in specific, I do have those 3 pages from the proposed draft that was in your packet. In our work meeting, we talked about the possibility of proposing a recommendation to approve the draft to the City Council. In your staff report, I had recommended that if you found this draft to be acceptable, I would like to combine this chapter with the internal accessory dwelling unit section, make it all one chapter. And then, of course, anything else that you might identify. Alternatively, you could also motion to close the public hearing and continue the agenda item. I would really like to bring this back at the next meeting, which of course requires a quick turnaround on my part. So if you can be very specific about what you'd like to see in a second draft, we'll make that a priority and make that happen. You can also motion to continue to hold the public hearing to the next meeting, but we should be date specific. If you're going to continue the hearing, let's target February 6th for that hearing. Or if you simply want to have another hearing on this item, again, it's easy enough for us to re-advertise the hearing if that's your direction. So, okay.
I guess I have the same opinion on this one for the public hearing. that we go ahead and open and probably close it. Based on discussions we had in the work meeting, I don't think there was a whole lot of issues. There was a couple of things that we talked about, but I don't think that's something that would wholesale change what is being proposed today. It just maybe is some tweaks that we may need to make. So my opinion is we hold a public hearing, go ahead and close it. But, okay,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and open the public comment. Come forward and state your name, please.
Beautiful evening out. My name's Clint Underwood. I'm a resident of Harriman. I'm generally against this. I mean, if this was considered and passed and implemented, it would kind of turn item 1 discussion non-relevant, okay? All of a sudden, you're throwing away a lot of your zoning planning, and it's not up there anymore. But I'll touch on a few points. Some of them have been covered by the gentleman here already. Minimum lot size, vertical height, so you're not overlooking neighbors. Parking considerations, okay? No impact on neighbors, no cars in the street, adequate parking for whoever's living there. Limit the number of occupants. Again, no commercial Airbnb kind of stuff. Clear access for utilities, emergency vehicles, and so on. It can't be tucked behind a house if somebody's having a heart attack or there's a fire. Emergency vehicles need to be able to reach that, and utilities need to be able to service the building. And kind of relevant to your fence discussion, who's going to maintain the state of good repair? Okay, so that might have something to do with clear access also. So I'm just registering my discussion that I am against this as a resident of the town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Darger, I'm a resident of Harriman, and I want to, a couple things. I'm in support of an ADU. I think it's long overdue. I think it's coming. We have a lot of issue with affordability. And so I like the way this ordinance is written. There's a few things that popped out to me as I looked at it. The height doesn't work very well. It should tie to the house, or you couldn't even do a 2-story. And I think if you want an issue, the ones that I've seen done well have a garage you come under and then, you know, an ADU on top. So I would definitely look at the height element as this is written. I'm not sure about the owner occupied. Does that mean the house and the ADU? Because I would guess it means of the two that the owner's occupied. So I just wasn't sure on that. But overall, I think I'd love to see this get done, and I think it is long, like I said, long overdue. And but overall, I think this is well thought out, and I like what I saw in the proposal. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, so seeing no more comments, a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
A motion by Heather, a second by Andy. Andy? Oh, actually, do
We
we
can
just do?
We can just do it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then discussion.
We let Michael kind of address some of the comments.
Yeah.
Let's let Michael address some of the comments maybe first.
So as we talked about in the work meeting, there is some concern about the feasibility of that second story being limited to a 20-foot height. Certainly that is something that you could modify easily in the draft. I do agree, I think it was suggested that it should at least be no taller than the principal dwelling. That might be something you could consider. Also on the owner occupancy, it's as long as the owner is occupying either of these spaces. It doesn't matter if it's in the main dwelling or the accessory dwelling. It's interesting, years ago, when I say years ago, like 15 or so years ago, when other cities began adopting ADU ordinances, they did start out with occupying the main dwelling, but I found a lot of cities quickly pivoted away from that and said it doesn't really matter where the owner lives as long as they're living on site.
Can't rent them both
So
out.
that allows someone to kind of age in place and potentially kind of downsize into the ADU, but they're still living on the property, right?
Makes sense.
So that, yeah,
Okay, so to Andy's comment, they can't rent them both out.
right.
And
Right.
the owner occupied, we're talking about the owner of the primary unit.
Either one.
Right.
Either one.
Right,
They
yeah,
can
because
go to the
we're not
ADU.
separating the ownership of the
The
ADU,
owner
right?
of the lot can live
Yeah.
in the ADU
Yeah.
and rent the
Correct.
house out.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that owner occupancy provision is what we already do for the internal ADU, as you know, so.
So there was a comment about short-term rentals. Maybe just clarify that that's not allowed in the city,
Right,
right?
not
So it wouldn't be
allowed.
allowed with this as well, right?
Right. Right. Anything less than 30 days is considered to be a short-term rental, and we currently,
Okay, the first gentleman referenced emergency vehicles and parking and all that. So if the ADU's way out in the back 40, are they obligated to provide access to an emergency vehicle?
there is, but admittedly, that is one of the common concerns. Cities have still been adopting these because there are other concerns to be, cognizant of. And so what is required is there has to be clear addressing and demarcation of how to access that ADU. And it's not as ideal, but it is what other communities have been requiring, and our emergency services have been adapting to it. Again, we are anticipating receiving a mandate from the state of doing some type of detached ADU, and we're just trying to kind of get out ahead of that a little bit, and knowing that, like we see in a lot of our other new ordinances, we'll adopt something, live with it for a little bit, and then we're back making some changes to it. But we need to start somewhere. At least that appears to be the ground that we're at right now.
Could you also address the comment about parking, the requirement for the
So
parking?
this has a requirement of adding one off-street parking. The internal accessory dwelling unit ordinance does not allow us to require additional parking if there's already 4 on site, but the state code does not have that exception for detached ADUs. Now, I anticipate that the state, if they were to adopt one, that was probably something we're going to have to revisit. But right now, it looks like we could require off-site parking for a detached ADU.
So, say one stall, they're required to have one, but they could technically have 2 or 3 vehicles that may be using that, but
So-
we're only requiring one.
Right.
Which, and then there was a question about occupancy as well. There's no way to really limit the number of occupants that may be in that unit as well. Is that true, or?
It's possible. Then it becomes something we have to enforce. And
Enforce,
that occupancy
sure.
limit is difficult. A lot of times you end up regulating the secondary impacts of occupancy. And there are health standards for ratio, but it's a pretty low, per square footage ratio per occupant, as some of our architects know. So usually, I think most codes, you don't really see that focus, right? You're always just looking at the secondary impacts is what you're enforcing.
No, and I appreciate that. This is more to help educate those and inform me as well.
So
Those
in
many comments.
an overview, you're allowing it on a 6,000 square foot lot. If we have to add.
Potentially.
Yeah,
Potentially if they have to meet all the requirements,
You have
which
to meet
is,
all those
yeah, which
additional
is not going to
parking,
be.
then it becomes problematic as to who can actually, they may have the desire to build one, but they can't qualify
Right.
to build one. So it could be, this passes, but we don't see a whole big impact if you can't qualify for it.
What I have seen in other cities is these are typically like an owner-builder. And you have a lot of people who are interested, but it's not cheap. And they'll start the permit process, and it's difficult. It's not that the standards are really burdensome, but it's just costly. You're building a whole unit. It's not like building a shed. So I haven't seen communities get overrun with this option.
Well, and that brings
But
up.
it can be useful for those individuals who have the means and the opportunity. It can be very impactful, but it's not something that works for everybody.
there was additional comments about utility access and things like that too. That's all a part of this, right? Obviously, they got to have the utilities in the unit, but then also to the utility easements and whatnot that are out there, they cannot be encumbering those as well.
Right, right. We would, all of that would have to comply with standards. Now,
Yeah.
what we often see is that the smaller units may be joined to the existing systems, utility systems.
Sure.
And I think this is an issue that we would need the city council to really weigh in on. Where do we want to collect potentially an impact fee and require separate meters versus, you know, just allowing an extension of existing services? Because of course, if we're doing a separate meter, that's a road cut, and we're dealing with other issues.
When we want it to be
expenses.
affordable, affordability is a big issue.
Right, right. So
Yeah,
there's some financial elements there that I think we'll still need to work with the city council on.
Yeah.
So if we approve this, it goes to the city council. They're gonna debate it all over again and make recommendations for us to relook at, or?
It could, but they don't have to. Typically, the threshold is if they are essentially expanding the proposal, what is being considered, that may warrant a reversal or a rehearing by the commission. But they have a lot of latitude as far as what they can change once it's forwarded to them. And I would say an expansion might be like increasing, I don't know, something that would generate maybe a greater quantity or greater impact. I wouldn't anticipate that happening. I think if anything, there would probably be a more narrowing, consideration, but because we're already, you can see, I'm already started pretty, permissible with that 6,000 foot limit. I guess they could expand maybe the building envelope, maybe. But that wouldn't increase more units, right? It would just make an ADU a little bit bigger than what's in this draft.
I've got kind of a separate line I want to question. Okay, so I've got a kind of a what if, but it's something I could see coming. So, for example, we have a developer that comes in, buys up, a section of a neighborhood or a neighborhood, and I'm thinking of the single-family rental homes. Would they be allowed to do ADUs along with the single-family rental homes?
Only if you have owner occupancy, right? You can't have a rental.
So the corporate can't say, these are our owners, and they're coming in, and they're going to...
It has to be owned by the occupant, right? It can't be owned by a corporation.
So a corporation couldn't
Can't have
do
two
that.
rentals on the same
Yeah.
property.
So maybe a suggestion on my part might be something where we make it very clear that these single-family rental groups can't come in and all of a sudden double their occupancies by adding ADUs. They could be, I don't know if there's a way to make that maybe even more clear.
I mean, obviously, as we've talked about, if you identify any particular issues you want me to research and bring back to you, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, if you could do that, because BlackRock's the name.
If there's something that we need to add to that.
Yeah, I think we could identify it and say, this is the zoning, you can't have double the occupancy, by adding ADUs.
Yeah. The language that's here is pretty typical, but I'm happy to see if there's maybe a need to strengthen it or.
Right, but rental neighborhoods are a more recent
Yeah,
development, I think, so.
yeah.
I have two points or questions or whatnot. One, which was discussed in the work meeting a little bit, and that was the maximum height. I do think we need to address the maximum height, that instead of saying 20 feet, that it states, I think we said 25 feet or no higher than primary residence, whichever is lowest.
Yeah,
I like that.
That makes sense.
I think that would allow for.
That's kind of what I'm looking when I'm researching.
I don't know if we want to say whichever is lowest, because, if you've got a house that's 23, but you want to have a residence over a garage,
Yeah.
and you're sitting on a third acre, I don't know, I think that would.
You think just 25 feet?
I would say 25, or height of the residence.
Or height
Instead
of
of
the
whichever
residence.
lower.
Because if the residence is like 30 foot tall residence, you're okay with being a 26 foot tall,
Yeah,
is what you're saying?
yeah.
And And I'm almost thinking just limit it to 2 floors, whether that's the garage and one above it, or
That gets
Two
tricky
separate
because
floors.
it's like that picture I was showing in the work
How
meeting.
tall is it?
That was only
Single
2 floors.
story, and that's
But I
12
think that
feet,
was
and then-
30
Right.
some odd.
well, if my garage has a 14-foot ceiling.
If it's an RV garage, you're starting to get closer to,
It can get out of control.
really
So
tall.
25 feet or the height of the
25 feet.
primary structure.
Yeah.
I like that.
So that was my first point. My second question, I guess, for you, Michael, that is, is it possible for a person to reside in the house, have an internal ADU being rented, and then construct an external ADU and rent that as well? I don't see in here any restriction of a single ADU total. It says only one internal and only one external, but it does not say.
Okay.
Either.
I thought I had, there was only one, but maybe I've overlooked that, so we can clarify that.
So that's
I know
one
at one
concern.
time we talked about potentially doing both. but
I don't
told
see
you
an
the
issue
council
if you
right
have-
now was uncomfortable with that. and-
Parking?
I think I was the one that wanted it initially, and I still stand on that. If you're living in your house, then you're obviously gonna make sure it's.
So you're okay with having, allowing both?
Having both, yes, if it's owner occupied.
But if we can't specify how many parking spaces, then you have.
That's where
Well, you have to have
some-
one additional,
One additional for the detached.
just for the detached.
oh, but not the internal.
Yeah,
I mean,
internal, it does have a requirement, but if there's already 4 on site, then we can't require more.
Okay. I don't know, that
So I
seems kind
think
of
that's the
rare.
item that the parking, especially on a 6,000 square foot lot, is you might already be having issues providing.
Right.
parking.
Can we make it
And
a
if you
requirement that all individuals that are living on the lot has to have off-street parking?
I don't
Can we
think
state
so,
it that way?
Because you'd have to do
Well,
that by
let me-
age and.
I'm
if they
trying to
drive.
figure out a way, because I agree, I don't want a bunch of on-street parking if,
It's
Yeah.
it becomes a bigger issue, because I know around my house, when I had all 3 teenagers at home, we had 6 cars. And even then, we were just one family
Yeah.
in one home. And
Well, and that's my concern, is you get,
we
you
couldn't
get
really
6
fit
cars
everything
from
on
the,
the lot.
you get 6 cars from the owner, you rent out your basement, then you build an ADU behind you, you got, I mean, potentially 10 cars on this single lot.
so let me clarify. So if you are to do an ADU, you have to provide an additional. So so if you have 4, say for my lot, I can fit 6 comfortably, right? The 3-car garage and 3 on the driveway. I only need 4, but if I put on an ADU, then I would have to have 5. But, so am I accommodated because I have 6, or do I need to add additional? Okay. All right, I want to make,
I think
yeah,
part of the parking comes back to the size of the lot.
yeah.
6,000, because I have a 6,000-foot lot, and, we fit, well, almost fit 6 cars. We really had 5 and one that we would kind of float around.
Again, if you can't meet the standards, then you
Yeah, you
wouldn't get
can't do it.
approved.
Then you're not, yeah,
Right.
That's around.
yeah. I just want to make sure that just by adding the ADU doesn't require an additional. If they already have that accommodated, they don't have to provide an additional, which I'm okay with.
It seems to me that where we run into parking issues in the city is really the townhouse.
Yes,
That-
absolutely.
That's where it becomes a real problem.
Right, where you got 4
We're not going
already.
to have any ADUs going into townhouses.
Correct. And on a lot where you already have 4, they would have to be required to get a 5th to build an ADU. And that's where, yeah, the way I'm reading that. Okay.
So in the work meeting, I guess I have one more. We had quite a conversation about privacy.
Windows?
Some of these small lots
Does.
Harriman has already, there's not much privacy. There's less than 10 feet from house to house. So I don't see there's a big difference between having an ADU at these setbacks and some of these smaller lots. But I don't know if that was ever resolved with my architect friends here.
You're correct in that from house to house, we have some smaller lot developments already, right? And there's not maybe a lot of privacy between those two, but it's already anticipated and seen. You understand the building typology that you're moving into, right? This is introducing an ADU in a rear yard, which then you would, in theory, think, well, that's adjacent to somebody else's rear yard. And that's where that heightened sense of privacy comes from. maybe it wasn't anticipated that there would be occupiable space in that rear yard. And again, this is just something that I've seen where we've tried to mitigate that. Not saying that architecturally or maybe personal freedom, there shouldn't be reasons to simply allow it. But it is something that we could do, you know, just restricting where those windows are placed when there's an adjacent yard, right, within that certain proximity.
For me, I don't have a problem with the way the windows ordinance is written, that part of it. Specifically, and it also talks about, you know, but shall be designed to protect privacy. I know we talked about going ahead and allowing windows on the lower first level.
Yeah.
That is designed to protect privacy if you have a fence or whatever. So
Yeah.
personally, I think the way it's written, I don't have a problem. I do agree that we don't want to have a bunch of ADUs that are allowing an upper level with a window looking into a backyard. Again, for me, it's if you're buying a lot where you have small homes that are right next to each other, you know what you're getting at that point. But if you buy a lot and your neighbor's there and it doesn't have an ADU and you put in a pool or a spa or whatever it is, they come in and put in an ADU. I don't want them looking into my area. So personally, the way this is written, I'm okay with. So I wouldn't change that if again, my thought.
My thought, because I go back to lot size is a big deal to me. Because it's like if I had a half acre lot and I put an ADU and it's like 25 feet away from my lot line and I want to put like full windows or like on the second level, I don't see a problem. I think where it's like quarter acre and less is where it gets problematic on a second level where it's that close to another person's backyard.
But again, you can still have windows, they just be elevated, you know, and you can still have windows on 2 of the 4 sides.
Yeah,
Well,
what
that's
if
the
your-
part
what
we
if
need to
your
clarify,
view
'cause it's
is
like-
towards your neighbor's property line.
Is it just the rear or is it the sides? You know what I mean? Because if you have it pushed up to the corner, is it, if it's in the middle of the backyard, then it's just the back rear?
No, the way this is stated is to provide light and air, but shall be designed to protect privacy, so.
It's kind of interpretation.
There is some interpretation there,
Yeah.
but again, I think
that was-
2 of the 4 sides, right? You got a
Have full
side yard
windows.
and a backyard that it's facing, you don't get
Yeah.
to have big windows to look, because essentially you're looking into.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
to elaborate, maybe to elaborate a little further, Brady.
Yeah.
What if it was on 8,000 acres and smaller, when closer than 20 foot to a fence, then the window restriction kicks in.
Like that makes sense to me.
So it's scalable based on,
Yeah, like I
Okay.
like that.
If
'Cause
you're
it's like,
less
Based
than
on
20 foot
location.
setback, you're on smaller than, you're on a quarter, 8,000 acres.
I guess if you have a greater setback, I'm okay. The minimum setbacks, if it's only 8
Yeah,
feet, that's
no.
the concern I
If we
have.
have
I
a
agree with
larger
that.
setback,
But if you have a larger
lot,
setback,
not a
I'm
problem.
okay with that, yeah, I'd be okay with that.
okay, I can work on that.
I would recommend that we just eliminate that piece.
That's one recommendation.
Because
No, I know, we all have
Right,
recommendations. I
exactly,
mean, so it's.
Exactly. And, privacy for the larger lot versus privacy for the smaller lot. Let's say it is on 6,000 square foot lot, and you have a smaller home, so you have room for that ADU. Is there an expectation that you weren't going to be 30 feet away from your neighbor's yard? No, because you're already in a small lot, right? So there's an expectation that you're gonna have some visibility and less privacy. Now, if you're on a 5-acre lot and you put this ADU right in the bottom corner of your 5-acre lot, were you expecting people to be able to see that? Probably not, but then you have room for trees. So
Well,
I
that's where
think-
the step
That's where I
back-
like
That's where the step back.
the setback.
right. And I like that approach, but I'm one for not limiting possibilities just
Yeah.
for the sake of someone else's privacy. When it's your-
That's
when
that's
it's-
where I
When it's
differ.
your property.
Yeah, and I'm okay with not limiting opportunities for property owners, but if it does invade privacy, that's where I have a concern.
Well, maybe it's simpler than lot size, maybe it's just simple setback.
Setbacks, I'm okay with that.
If you're 20 foot or more in setback, there's no window restriction.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because I can envision a smaller lot where you have a great view of the mountains over your neighbor's house. But because that's on the rear lot line, you're not allowed to have full height walkout windows on your second floor to enjoy that view. You have to have the bathroom 1 inch or 1 foot tall windows that
Or if you wanted a deck.
destroy your view. Maybe
You
they
know what I
bought the property for the view. And so it's,
And that's fine, they can still have the view, just not the ADU, wouldn't have it.
well, what if that's where the primary owner is gonna live? So that, I mean,
That's- that's the
my point.
restriction
That's
that's
my
there.
point, is that It's a
Yeah.
restriction on architecture and for the sense of maybe someone might not like it, you know, or not like their privacy.
Yeah,
don't like
it's a
your
balancing
neighbors.
act, trying to balance
It is,
all the
it
rights,
is,
right, for
it
everyone.
is.
I get it, I get it,
Yeah, so that's why I say eliminate it.
yeah.
I like the
And that's why I
setback.
say keep it, so I mean, yeah, it's, we're,
Are we
yeah,
throwing
I
too
don't know,
much
yeah,
at you,
I
Mike?
see it as well, I get it.
I mean, I like the setback too, because it's like, okay,
If it's set back, you're not looking in the yard.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I've got some good direction.
I was gonna say, do you have direction? Do you need more direction?
So Michael, the other thing that we had talked about is a fencing requirement.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
What does the commission think about that?
I don't think we should.
well, I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, I don't think so.
Should
You don't
put
think
a
you should
fencing
require
requirement?
fencing?
No.
I mean, if the other resident doesn't like the ADU, they can put up the fence.
We're allowing wood fences now, so maybe it's okay.
Throw it out there.
I'm just saying, right? There are some more equitable, little cheaper opportunities to put up a fence now. So, I'm
Right, so
serious, but yeah,
just-
maybe we don't change
Just to
that.
gauge, fencing, we're not going to worry about that.
Well, no, let me bring up a scenario on fencing, because I think it's one thing to know your neighbors, but it's another if your neighbor has unknown residents rotating through their yard. It might be good to
Being
have
a
that
rental
fence.
and, yeah, rotating.
And they're the
Then
ones
neighbor would-
introducing that,
their
so they
neighbor
should
has
be the
the
ones
option of always
responsible
putting
for
up
it.
a fence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. I think we maybe should require a fence. That's a valid argument.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, you know.
That's a valid argument. I
Yeah.
can see that. Because it shouldn't be the responsibility of the neighbor, who's not the one that's choosing to rent the space, to build the fence, just because the one next to them is like, well, I've decided to compromise your property safety.
Sounds like a window, too.
Wait.
That's almost the same.
So wait, you're saying that it's the responsibility of someone else to protect someone
The
else's
renter,
property?
no,
No,
ADU.
I'm saying, what I'm saying is if you're the owner
Yeah.
and you're deciding to build an ADU, you're introducing another entity, a renter, into that environment. And then you're just saying to the neighbor, sorry, your problem if they're gonna trespass on your property. So if they trespass on the property and you wanna, like, what's
let's say, for
what's stopping
example-
them from doing that?
So what's stopping the city from saying that every house that's built has to be surrounded by a fence? Because that's the exact same argument.
No,
It's similar.
No, it is.
you're
It's the
saying
exact
if
same
it's
argument.
rented.
Similar, but not the same.
It doesn't matter if it's rented or not. The ADU doesn't have to be rented.
But aren't the ADUs much closer than your neighbor's house with these
Let me make it more fun. What if
On the sides, they're not.
What if one of the new renters brings a pit bull? Who's, and the neighbors never had one up to that point. Does that mean the neighbor next to them with the little kids all of a sudden has to pay for a fence?
Pit bulls are nice. They get a bad rap, so don't use pit bulls. Pit bulls are good dogs.
I mean, it's a valid point, but I guess the issue is
They never had
where
to do it
you-
until the ADU was there.
Yeah.
But where do you put the line where it doesn't matter what your neighbor wants, that you have to put up a fence between the two of you? What if they both don't want a fence?
Guess I land back on the same argument I did with the windows, which is, to me, the ordinance of an ADU is a privilege. While yes, you're the property owner, the city doesn't have to allow a secondary dwelling on that property.
Well, until the
So I
state
think it's a privilege in that aspect that you're creating this ordinance to allow for yet a second opportunity to use the land that you have when you're already using it for a primary purpose. And that is what the city's responsibility is to manage that aspect of it. So from that viewpoint, managing it as a privilege, well, then there's going to be certain requirements that come along with that, including a fence and including certain window restrictions and things like that for
Except once
privacy of
this
your
is
neighbors.
passed, This is exactly the same.
What?
Once this is passed, it's no longer just a privilege, it's a right.
Yeah.
if somebody complies with all of the standards, right, it's.
Right.
You're obligated to issue permits, right?
But it's, we're creating this in that aspect that, yeah, I mean, that's the case with everything, right? I mean, but it's still, I view it as more of like a privileged perspective.
Yeah.
It's a balancing
I'm
act
kind of
for
stuck in the
all.
middle because I could see, yeah, what if having the ADU is more of a nuisance for the neighbor? But what if they both don't want a fence and it's like, well, I'm required
in
to put this
writing.
fence in, but we don't want a fence.
You can get a variance to anything.
Variance for that.
So come before us with both parties and show us that, yeah, we don't want it. Then we do it.
Well,
Then we, yeah.
You'd have to build in some type of
Right, 'cause-
exception process, not a
Okay.
variance, but an
Variance.
exception.
Whatever, an exception,
For
yeah.
something you don't like to do or don't want to do.
Yeah.
I think we're going away from our original intent too, which was to make something affordable.
Affordable, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, because you look at the cost of a fence and,
it's like
you know, you're on a
$5,000,
third.
$10,000.
Well, no,
Well, yeah.
it's like 20 grand now.
Oh, yeah, true.
So for a third of an acre.
Yeah.
So considering that, we're already pushing those prices back up. And granted, we know not a lot of people are going to utilize this.
I think I would push more for the fence on the 6,000 square foot lots, personally, is where I would see more of a need. If it's 2-acre lots, there's that buffer. But when it's these 6,000 square foot lots and you have an ADU and no fence, that's,
Let me do some research on that. I must admit, it's not a requirement that I recall seeing typically in other ADU ordinances, but maybe I wasn't looking for it. So let me just, look at some best practices and kind of what is typical and give you a recommendation the next time we meet.
and maybe on that too, Michael, so on existing lots that build an ADU that already have a fence, maybe requiring them to have an emergency gate instead of, like a man door, I guess?
Yeah, they definitely will have to have
Okay.
access
That actually
requirements,
brings up
right?
another point though, because if we are putting a fence, like, are they gonna be able, so consider that we're putting this unit on the side of the house where you have your RV pad, and we are required to put up a fence. Are we gonna have to, we're not gonna account for the pit bull, because if you're having to completely fence off that whole part in front of it, and then you have that other issue of emergency access. So are we just going, or is what we're asking is to just put up sides of a fence, sides, back? We're
Like all of it?
gonna
or just
have to fence the entire property?
Maybe, Michael, you can answer this. Is it required that emergency vehicles are able to access the rear of residences?
It
is.
So how does that,
like walking, like it,
Yeah, people.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because that's a big difference.
Right.
People and cars are very different sizes, so.
We
Right.
currently, for example, if there's a walkout on a home, we do require a path, which is defined as concrete, asphalt, or professionally laid pavers for emergency access to that rear yard area. So something similar probably
Yeah.
will be instituted for access for the people who live in that dwelling, as well as emergency services.
Right, but not vehicular. So we're
Right.
not trying to get fire trucks to the back of a lot.
No, and
fire
fire code doesn't require
The
that.
goal
They
is
have
to
long
get a gurney.
hoses.
Yeah.
Yeah, the goal is for a gurney
Yeah.
and to eliminate tripping hazards for
Right.
EMS that are coming to help.
And is that part of this ADU, is that there's a required path to the ADU?
It's not in the current draft.
Okay.
That might be
We
something.
might want to add it. I don't know if we can rely on other sections of the Title 10, but we
Right,
could add
right.
it.
I like that.
That
Yeah,
seems
I've
like
got
a
a
pretty
note.
straightforward,
Yeah.
requirement.
Yeah,
You don't want them having to go through someone's house to get to the ADU anyways.
right.
Unless it's a car
Yeah.
park.
So might I say, Michael, you've done a great job in putting this together and getting ahead of what legislation will be coming from the state. We recognize that, and so I appreciate the work that's been done to get us to this point, and I appreciate the discussion too. I think it's been really good. So hopefully you've got plenty of, is there any other
I
input
have one
you
more
want?
thing
Yeah.
to add. So under the owner part, I think legally, we're gonna have to look at how we're writing that out as far as owner occupied, because a lot of people have our houses in trusts or potentially an LLC. So we may need to have legal look at how we're wording that.
Yeah, I have dealt with that issue before, and I can provide more information on that.
Because we definitely don't want the investors coming in and buying.
Right,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, I like what Jackson was saying too. The renters, right, the corporations coming in and buying the properties and
Yep.
double renters that way. So clarify that too. I like that.
Okay.
Is there any potential for someone coming in once they have something like this built and then asking to subdivide the property?
Currently, no. Oddly enough, Farmington is a city that has entertained that, but they are an anomaly.
Yeah.
It hasn't been as effective, I think, is what they're anticipating because of if you have a mortgage, quite likely you have a really low interest rate. And if you're doing a subdivision for an ADU, it requires a refinance. Nobody wants to refinance to the higher rates. So again, that's a really unusual situation. I think in this ordinance, if I remember right, we have a phrase that saying you can't
Yeah, that I
subdivide
would
it,
not
right?
wanna see
So
that.
that's not what we're
Agreed.
anticipating.
Yeah.
Probably
So I
wouldn't
know-
meet the
that'd be
zoning
a
requirements
very
anyway, but yeah.
You never know.
Yeah,
you
true,
know,
true.
down
Well,
the
because
road.
California has allowed that where they can make it a separate parcel and sell it off.
Yeah, that worries us.
Well, like our item number 2 though, right? If an ADU is a part of a larger lot and they decide to come in and subdivide it as a flag lot and it meets all the requirements, okay,
Yeah.
right?
Are we looking to
Maybe one
continue
last
that item?
ownership question. One last, so under ownership, a family member could live in the ADU and then they could rent the front out. So say, for example, I could have my kid live in the back and then take care of it.
That is, yeah,
Is in
you,
there?
you have to be a direct, right? That was spelled out, I think, in this
Okay,
ordinance,
sorry,
yeah.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
So your kid
So
could
like
be a
if you have a
landlord
trust,
and rent them both at that
Yeah.
point.
You could have a
I guess if
family
he's a part
member-
of the trust and, you know, so technically, I guess you're renting to your kid and you're renting to the other individual too.
Yeah.
I guess that is a double rental, but I
But
guess it's a
family.
direct family, so.
Direct family.
It's family, so that's the difference.
Okay, so do we want to continue this and
Yeah.
have Michael bring that back?
I think we need to continue it.
Okay.
With all those, I'd like to see the changes that, yeah.
I'm here.
Sounds good,
I'll-
okay.
If not, I'd like to figure out how to write a proposal for that.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah, how do you document all that in
I like Daryl. Daryl can. I'm joking, sorry.
I have the notes. I don't think you need to be specific. You could just, with staff direction, motion to continue with.
Yeah, I motion to continue.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we
Go for it.
continue this discussion.
until February 4th, right? You want a date on this, right? You want to bring,
We'll bring it back on the 4th.
Until February 4th.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Jackson, a second by Andy. Andy?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
And Brody?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, do we have any commission comments?
I have one comment. I just want to make it clear that we do not want more density. And the way that the state has made it so we essentially have to have all these things that we have to do to meet requirements for the state. And so rather than having an area with more density, what we can do is we can allow these ADUs, which a lot of people still won't be able to afford them. It will probably have a better impact on our communities than having more density everywhere else. So I just
And it
wanted
is-
to say that.
It's
No, I was going to say, and it's going to be mandated by the state to
Yeah.
allow the ADUs, and so we're trying to get ahead of it and control what we can do, so we,
Anything we can
thank
do
you.
to
Yeah,
lower that, we will.
yeah.
Well, I'll
yeah.
I'll make a comment to that too. Research that I've done, I mean, an ADU versus an apartment complex allows younger families to grow up in a subdivision, a neighborhood, also age in place. There's some scenarios where older people can move into the ADU, rent out the bigger house to a newer family, and there's some maintenance because you get into some neighborhoods where, there's just aging aging neighborhoods, and there's nobody to take care of the yards, and these ADUs kind of open it up and revitalize the neighborhood, like where the parks are getting used again, because there's younger families in the neighborhood, and the lawns are getting maintained. All those things are benefits that I've read and seen.
Okay, thank you. So the next city council meeting will be January 28th, and the next planning commission meeting will be February 4th. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
You gonna call for a vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you.
so much.
Charleston Manors. Yeah, well, and they limit windows. Good manners.
You're gonna build an ADU?
I mean,